Talking Points Memo senior reporter Christina Bellantoni joins me. Michael Steele's choice of Hawaii for the winter meeting raised a lot of questions, sounded some silent alarms when that happened, and some not so silent as well. What do you make of these spending expenditures, and how different are they than what happens in most political parties, nonprofit groups, and the like to raise money?
Yeah, I mean, that's a key question. For hopefully nonprofit groups aren't spending like that, but political parties, certainly do spend money on things that anyone could call into question if they're a donor. Donors give money to political committees to see that party elected, and when anything above and beyond that is on those FEC reports, it causes some heartburn. Chairman Steele at the time said he wanted to reward hardworking committee members in Hawaii with this summit. Democrats chose to do theirs closer to Washington, so there's certainly a lot of questions that arise about the spending on the whole, and this is something that's been a theme since Chairman Steele took his tenure.
Right. So the one thing that the RNC is really tackling at this point is this whole idea of spending a couple $1,000s at a bondage-themed nightclub. The RNC says, we recognize the difficulty the Voyeur incident has caused and assure our members and supporters that any necessary and proper remediation is being implemented immediately. And again, they have fired a staffer who requested being reimbursed for that money. But the other expenditures do raise some questions. But when we're talking about this, then the RNC points back at what the DNC spends. I mean, if you look at some spending, and they say, look, if you look at the FEC filings here, that there was almost $200,000 that the DNC spent at that Beverly Hills hotel as well. That even nonprofits, if you want to get the big donors, and I know this from personal experience, they don't hold these meetings at breakfast at the local deli. They're at really posh hotels where people who are accustomed to posh surroundings are willing to write big checks.
That's all very true. And Los Angeles, is a very expensive town to entertain people in. But I think that the RNC rightly says that this is something to be concerned about. It's obviously not something that they expected to hit the press in this way. It sounds like they weren't prepared for it. They say that they're investigating the incident. It's really important to note that Chairman Steele wasn't there himself. But I do think that this is an issue that both political parties need to take a close look at their FEC expenditures, and certainly, any partisan can look at them and say these are things that you shouldn't have spent money on.
We're looking at money numbers now, and the RNC yesterday gave me some figures that show that it's outraising the DNC, that they've raised millions of dollars from their Fire Nancy Pelosi website. But the Washington Post reports, Christina, that the RNC had more than $22 million on hand when Steele arrived last year, down to less than $10 million on hand, despite the fact that they've raised a record $96 million. Do you expect to see calls for his ouster to grow? I mean, so far we've heard from Armstrong Williams, the conservative radio talker, and Douglas McKinnon, who's a former press secretary to Bob Dole.
I think you probably will hear calls for that, but it's all in the hands of the RNC committee members. A strong majority of them need to vote a chairman out. His tenure is up at the end of this year. The elections are going to be really critical for him. If the Republicans are able to win more seats in Congress and governorships, then, he may be okay. He may not. It may be just a short tenure for him. But certainly, while people can call for his resignation, there's not a whole lot of people that can actually do anything about it except those RNC committee members. And, it's really important to look at the fact that a lot of that money that they spent was in Massachusetts. The RNC helped Scott Brown win that special election, which certainly gave the Republicans a big boost last fall.
So did not kill the health bill
as
they were hoping. Christina Bellantoni, thank you very much.